What's up, y'all? It's your host, Will Cooper, coming back for another episode of the HuntStand podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, I'm going to encourage y'all to head on over to YouTube real quick and do something for me. I need y'all to subscribe to our new YouTube channel called Field Notes Outdoors. That's brought to you by HuntStand. Now, I know some of y'all are probably questioning, what's up, man? Like, why are y'all starting this new YouTube channel? Well, let me tell y'all real quick. We're starting up this new YouTube channel called Field Notes Outdoors to bring y'all pure organic hunting content. We're going to be bringing y'all some advice, tips, and tactics from seasoned and veteran hunters from across the industry. And we're doing this because we just want it to be a hunting-only channel. You know, we've got this other great YouTube channel we've been doing. We're going to continue to be doing lots of stuff over there, but we want y'all to head on over to Field Notes Outdoors. Make sure y'all subscribe and hit that little bell. If y'all do that, you'll get notified every time we bust out a new video. We're going to be bringing out weekly content, and we're actually kicking it off with our Spring Posse Turkey Series. Josh and I just wrapped up a hunt here in Texas, and so that's going to be dropping here fairly soon on that new YouTube channel. So make sure y'all are subscribed, hit that bell. Y'all don't want to miss out on that. We're going to be doing lots of cool stuff this summer. We're going to dive into elk season, and then we're going to get hot and heavy into whitetail through the rest of the year. So if you don't want to miss out on that, subscribe, hit the bell. Can't thank y'all enough. But on today's episode, we're going to be talking to Michael Lee from Backwoods Life TV. If you haven't yet, head on over to Instagram. Their handle is at Backwoods Life TV. They've been on the Sportsman's Channel for about 18 seasons now. They do a lot of cool things across the country. Lots of turkey hunting, deer hunting, fishing, you name it. These guys do it. But we get Michael Lee on here today to talk about some lucky drawers. Now, some of y'all might be superstitious, especially you bass fishermen out there. You know, y'all are superstitious about those bananas in the boats. Well, Michael's got some stuff of his own, and we're going to let him talk about that. He's also going to bring some really cool and really great killer turkey tactics, stuff he does, and we're just going to dive in there and pick his brain, go down a couple of rabbit holes, and we're going to see what comes out of this one, y'all. So, nonetheless, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the podcast, rate, review it for us. We greatly appreciate it, and we can't thank y'all enough for tuning in to this episode of the HuntStand podcast. If you're new, welcome, and if you're coming back for more, we thank you, can't appreciate you enough, and we hope you enjoy. You ready to dive in?
Let's do this thing, man.
All right, man. Well, Mike, you go by Mike or Michael? Which one you like?
Michael, yeah.
All right, man. Well, man, we can't thank you enough for hopping on the HuntStand podcast with us today. So, first and foremost, welcome to the HuntStand podcast.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, one of the things I like to do to get the podcast started with, I mean, we're going to dive into everything turkey hunting here in a little bit, but I like to start out with the guest giving us a 30-foot tree stand view of who you are. You know, where do you live? Where are you from? How'd you get into what you do? Let's dive into that real quick.
Oh, no problem. Well, I'm Michael Lee. Grew up in South Georgia, still live in South Georgia. I live about 20, 30 miles from the Florida line, right in the middle of the state, north of Valdosta, Georgia, which is called Titletown, USA. Just look it up on the internet if you've never heard of it.
Yeah.
We got all these football championships, which I didn't go to school here. I went to college here, but I'm from about an hour up the road, so I can't take credit for any of those, winning days. But anyway, grew up here, family's from here, family farm here. Learned how to hunt and fish at a young age from my dad, my grandfathers, my uncles. I mean, my whole family was into outdoors.
Yeah.
Grew up on a farm raising cows and row crops and things like that. So that's what my background then. Played tons of sports growing up, baseball for years. And then kind of how we got into Backwoods Life was Kevin Knight, my co-host, and I, we met in a hunting store in 2004. And Kevin was there to talk to another guy about doing video stuff. And I saw some of Kevin's work. And I played around with video cameras and stuff like that just for the fun of it, just videoing deer while I was sitting out there. And my dad did that a lot growing up just for the fun of it. So that's kind of where Kevin and I crossed paths, and we came up with Backwoods Life concept. And another buddy of ours here, Trey Weatherton, helped us get it going back in the day. And Man, it's just been a crazy ride. I get that question a lot, like how did you get started and to get to where you're at? And
Yeah.
there's no roadmap. I think anybody we've been in the
Oh,
industry
heck
for
no.
18 years now, and I was doing another podcast this past week or this week with John Tate, who's a producer in the industry and
Mhm.
worked for Realtree forever, a good friend of mine. And we were just talking about there's everybody that's been around for a while. There's no roadmap. Like you can't duplicate that process. It's not like you just woke up one day and okay, I called somebody and said, if you do these 3 steps, you're going to be in the outdoor industry doing what you want to do. It just doesn't work that way. Everybody's
No.
got their own path, their own journey, their own story basically. So that's how we came to fruition, and you know rode the wave and had the bumps of building anybody else has building a business,
Yeah.
and we're blessed to be here still.
Now, are you doing this full time, or is this kind of job number 2 or full?
No, I mean, this is pretty much, I do this and I do marketing in the outdoor industry.
Okay.
And I work with Lethal Products,
Mhm.
majority of my time doing their marketing and product development and e-commerce. I mean, the whole gauntlet with them. They asked me to come help out with that about 6 years ago, and I really enjoy doing that. I mean, I think I thrive off of business, being business minded and building things, and I like to see things succeed. So they asked me to come in and help with them. So I was like, heck yeah, I can do that too. And I don't know, some days I'm like I just told you before we started, I got
Mhm.
a laptop here, phone here, computer here, and I mean, it's like I really wonder if I've bitten off more than I can do a lot of times. So
Multitasker deluxe, man.
yeah. But we've been blessed with Backwoods Life, man. We do really well with it. We've got a great gauntlet of companies that we work with. And I think we've got 20, 25 brands that we represent, on that side of things through our TV show, social media,
Yep.
digital outlets, our Roku channel, YouTube, everything. And I mean, just like you guys with HuntStand, I mean, we could be happier to have, solid partners that we built this thing off of all these years.
I love it, man. I love it. And, I kind of want to go back to what you're talking about, how, because I get asked, I mean, I think everybody in the outdoor industry gets asked this a lot because I think people that they're friends with and followers on social media see, like, they're getting to go hunt occasionally and they're like, man, like, I want to get in the outdoor industry. Like, how do I do that? But what they don't see is what you just talked about is like, there's no roadmap. And a lot of times, like, it takes time. It takes years to kind of get to where you want to be. And then when they see that, they think they can just have it like that.
And it's a common misconception, man. I mean, especially in the world we live in today,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not knocking on any age demographics, but I mean, I'm probably a little bit older than you. I mean,
I got a couple of gray hairs.
well, this was just last week, man. But honestly, when we started Backwoods Life, we walked in ATA show. They
Mm-hmm.
had it in Atlanta, Georgia, the first one we ever went to.
Yeah.
And the show was so small, we could walk through the entire show within those 2 or 3 days. And we talked to every company in there.
Yeah.
And when I got back home, I was working full time. We were all working full time jobs then. So we come back home, and this back when you could have the directory from the show with everybody's contact, everybody's phone number, everybody's email address before everything went crazy, right?
Oh yeah.
People started bombarding for sponsorships and all
Yeah.
this, but I emailed over 250 companies out of that directory,
Ah,
and I got one. And we're still with that one today. It's Quality Archery Designs. We've been with them that long.
that's
And
awesome.
but that just shows you how hard this is.
Mm-hmm.
When we started back then, I mean, this was before there was no social media.
Yeah.
There was no Facebook, there were no Twitter, no Instagram. YouTube was a thought in process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really how it was. You had to go beat the bushes, you had to be persistent. And I don't feel like, and I'm not knocking what anybody else out there is doing. I mean, today it's I've got an Instagram page. Hey, will you sponsor me? And
Yep.
it's just the signs of the times. It's the work ethic is totally different. Now, I'm not saying there's not hardworking people out there doing
Mm-hmm.
this and trying to follow in those footsteps, but um, you know, we literally started the first year that Realtree Road Trips was on Outdoor Channel. That was our first year as
Really?
well.
Okay.
And and Waddell and Steve Finch that developed that. I mean, that they changed the dynamic of the hunting show.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back when, I mean, that's all you had was TV then. And so we've hung around. We went many years without ever making a dime, and that's hard for a lot of people to understand, and hard for
Yeah.
people to realize you have to sacrifice to get to where you want to be.
And you got to love it. And you got to love it.
I tell everybody they're either just letting us hang around too long that we're going to be all right, or we're just too dumb to quit. I don't know which one.
Too smart. Well, man, I want to dive into turkey hunting with you. With where you're at, I know the birds are doing a lot of different things in what they're doing in many other parts of the nation, but I really kind of want to dive into your knowledge and try and pick some golden nuggets from you to give to the listeners. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to turkey hunting, are you a bass fisherman at all?
Oh yeah, that's literally what I did since I was 2 years old until hunting took over my life.
So you know the whole banana in the boat superstition, right?
Oh yeah.
I want to start this off kind of a little bit of an icebreaker. What kind of superstitions or even rituals do you have when it comes to turkey hunting?
I don't have any rituals per se, but I'm gonna give away 3 things.
All right.
There's 3 things that popped in my head really quick. All right. And this is maybe TMI, but you asked.
Dive into it, man. Let's go.
I have a lucky pair of underwear.
I've got
now,
one too.
I don't wear these every day on a turkey hunt, so don't think I'm going out there for a week turkey hunt and not change my drawers. So I've got a lucky pair of underwear.
Yep.
They're literally Lucky brand underwear. They're gray with green 4-leaf clovers on them. And every Sunday that I have worn those turkey hunting, I have killed a turkey. And I'm talking for years now.
Now, is it just on Sundays that you wear them, or
just on Sunday?
Okay,
literally when the streak, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
I don't mean a pun with underwear.
Yeah, easy on your words there, man. Play on words.
Not those kind of streaks in underwear, but like I literally started that. Like it was like remember the first time I think I was down in Florida like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, here we go. There's a new pair of underwear. I'm gonna try them out. Maybe this is my lucky day. And boom, I killed a turkey. I'm like, all right, well, that's coincidental. Literally the next Sunday, I was hunting. I don't know if I was in Georgia where I was at, and all right, it's Sunday. Well, it's like Tiger Woods wearing his red and black on Sunday at a tournament. That's my Sunday turkey hunting superstitious thing, and I've done it deer hunting and stuff like that too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, those draws have killed a lot.
So do you have like a vacuum sealed bag that those things like stay in until that like has to get cut out and taken out on a Sunday, or like a special box?
I wish I did, but like no, they're just gonna pile everything else. I just know, all right, that one of this trip, I'm gonna take them just in case. If I can't kill, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, whatever, that's my go-to. And if that doesn't work, I've got nothing. I've thrown everything at them by then. So.
I think I just gave you a YouTube video idea.
That's one thing. I always we did a charity hunt years and years ago. It was a deer hunt. And what it was called Hope Outdoors. I don't think the organization, I don't know if they do anything anymore now. It's been so long, but they would take terminally ill kids, handicapped kids, terminally ill adults, and we would take them in late season Alabama and try to take them deer hunting and shoot a deer.
Awesome.
And there's a guy who's passed away now. His name was Mr. Charlie, and he gave me a Bible, one of the small little New International version Bible, like you see in a wherever hotel, a little bitty one. Yeah. And I always carry that in my backpack when I'm deer hunting, and I carry it in my turkey vest every spring. So I'll switch it back and forth from pack to turkey vest, and I've done that literally since he gave that to me.
I love it, man.
That's been more than 10 years or so ago. So I always have that. And another crazy thing, this was just recently. It was the last turkey season. I was in Kentucky.
Yep.
And we were like all over the birds, but it just wouldn't work out. It's just crazy. And I was hunting up there with my friends Ryan and Kathy Whitaker. And one of Kathy's things is she could walk through your food plot with clover, and she'll find a 4-leaf clover.
What?
And I literally walked beside her through it. I'm like, I can't see these things. She's like, there's one. There's one. Like she said, I don't know what it is about. She said, by my eyes, but I gravitate to 4-leaf clovers.
Seriously.
And I'm turkey hunting with them, and like she finds 2 literally where we just killed a turkey, and she gives them both to me. I put them in my turkey vest. They're all dried up and stuck in a compartment right now, but I got this 2 4-leaf clovers in my turkey vest. So
don't lose them.
But exactly. So we're going to see if I can get. I got the triangle, so now I just need to complete the square, and maybe we'll have us a good little foolproof good luck sequence of turkey hunting.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. Well, I love it. I love those 3 rituals. It's hilarious, especially the underwear thing. I think you got to make a video, man. Just like having those things like special vacuum seal, like they only get busted out on special last minute ditch situations. Yep. I love it. So what I really want to dive into is how you turkey hunt. I know there's, like when it comes to deer hunting, elk hunting, everybody kind of has their own process, how they tackle different areas, what they do, especially in new areas. But I kind of want to just let's dive into like what's the first thing you're doing opening morning? Like, I mean, obviously you're probably trying to put some beds together. You've probably done a little bit of pre-scout and stuff like that. But what's Michael doing opening morning?
Well, first off, we're already too deep this year.
There you go.
Florida. That was we hunted 6 hours. So but on those hunts I went with some guys. They said if we sit in this spot till mid morning, I've got trail cameras. Birds are working in and out of here.
Yeah.
And we got one of them we called in off the roost, so then we sat and waited, killed like 9:30. But to answer your question, I'm big on trail cameras for turkeys.
Okay.
And what that allows on my property anyway, what that allows me to do is I know where the turkeys are and what time of day. Literally, I've been watching this on our lease that we have in my family farm where my dad lives. I mean, they're automatic almost. Like we've got a couple gobblers right now that literally are in this area most all day.
Yeah.
And they're in front of the camera sometimes. Most of these are on food plots. Some of them just little areas I know there's like a little strut zone that's off a food plot or on top of a little hill or something like that. And we have a lot of pines in here, and so turkeys are coming in and out scratching in pines, throughout the day, and we'll do some strategic burns and stuff. So those birds will be in there all times of day. But I really believe that if you can utilize your trail cameras and you can pattern those turkeys just as you could a mature buck. I mean, I've killed tons of turkeys because I've been patient. I've sat. These turkeys are coming between daylight and noon. I know they're going to. If I can be patient, I can just sit by that tree. I can have my decoys out. However you want to hunt, call a little bit, try to speed things up. But I've killed so many from just being patient, knowing that they're in the area, and that's the thing. If you have that luxury to use trail cameras and have that property that you can do that on, and we deer hunt the same property, so we see these birds all year. We know the areas they like.
So you know what they're doing.
Yeah, we got a pattern, and now if you just told me, hey, I've got 200 acres down the road here, and I know nothing about the property.
Yeah,
how am I gonna? I'm gonna approach that totally different. I'm gonna go in there in Georgia, and I say this term just loosely out of all my years of experience. We don't roost birds very much. They don't gobble a whole lot in the evening. They gobble a little bit sometimes when they fly up. There's always exceptions. I mean, there's some guys out there that say, "Oh man, they gobble on my place every time they feet hit a limb, they just wear it out." And I've roosted bird before like that. But if I don't have that luxury, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to get there right at daylight, kind of have a lay of the land at least. Like if we're hunting a field, I'm not going to be standing in the middle of that field at daylight. Right. I'm going to on a tree line. I'm going to be trying a spot where when a bird gobbles, I can either move on him, have some cover, or I can sit down and be in the game already. So I'm going to I usually let the bird do their own thing. I know a lot of guys owl hoot or hit a coyote, call or, whatever that you use. I kind of let the turkey start doing his own thing because usually if he's gobbling on the roost on his own, you can check the temperature real easy. Oh, yeah. So if he's up there, if you're just standing there and he's gobbling and gobble, and you're being able to move and get set up. Now, when you get set down and he gets light enough, you give him a few tree yelps. You can, this bird's kind of high, And if it's one of them, you get an owl call, he gobbles one time and you never hear him again. I'm not saying you won't kill him, but he's already got a plan. He may have a girl sitting right there in the tree with him. He may wait until that hen flies down and is at the bottom of his tree before he flies down. It's just all subjective. It's a huge chess match. Unless you play, you don't know how to win.
Big time. So kind of talking about it. So obviously if you got a bird that's super hot, right, and he's going to come down, he's probably if you're set up right and conditions are right, 9 out of 10 times you're probably going to get an opportunity at that bird, hopefully. But then let's talk about that bird that's henned up. I didn't compare elk hunting to turkey hunting a lot. When you've got a bull that he's got a cow and he's just honed in on her, a lot of times you can't pull him away from her, but you can call her. So is that a tactic that you apply to turkey hunting? Do you try and work that hen before you try and work him, or what are you doing?
If I know he's henned up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna, depending on my terrain and depending on the conditions, of course. If it's a spot like, if I can visually see the bird, say they're in the middle of a field or a pasture,
Yeah.
I'm going to call. I'm going to check the temperature of that and see what happens. If you can get that hen fired up, a lot of times I have killed birds by calling the boss hen over there. Like, you get her mad, and you just, when she starts calling, you give it right back to her. Like, as fast as she calls, you call right back. You one up her, and you just keep her pissed off.
Yeah,
and hopefully she's going to come over there and like, all right, I can't stand this anymore. And then he's going to get towed into, at least close enough for a shot before she figures something's up. But another thing, and this is, some people like this, some people don't. I mean, I'm not afraid to throw up a fan. If a gobbler's out in the middle of a field or a pasture and he's got a group of hens, I'm going to throw a fan up and I will crawl out there. And if I can usually get within 100 yards of that bird and I start cutting at him real hard and show him that fan, it's a high percentage done deal. He's going to come over there. Now, I've done it. The first time I actually pulled that off, I was in Florida. And in Georgia and Florida, it works, but it's temperamental depending on your terrain. So I was down with, they had some pasture land and stuff with your like palmetto thickets and palm trees and typical Florida looking stuff in a pasture. And we have a bird gobbling, got decoys set out, and he comes in and he sees the decoys, he turns around and leaves. And I'm thinking, okay, well this bird's seen this before. Like,
game over.
Something's not right. And I was lucky because there was a barbed wire cattle fence that was stretched way through the woods, and you could see 300-400 yards down this fence line, and it had cover on both sides. So he's down on the edge of this fence, just kind of easing off. I crawl out there with a fan, and I'm laying in the decoys. I got like a jake here and 2 hens. I'm laying in the decoys with a fan, and I crawl there. I could see him, and I would call, and he'd stick his head up, and he would look. I'd call, he'd stick his head up, and he would look. I'd show him that fan, and I'd call. Then he started gobbling.
Yeah.
And then he'd take a few steps my way, and he's 200-300 yards away. Same thing. I just kept pouring it to him. I was relentlessly calling to this bird and showing him this fan. And finally he starts strutting, and then he starts running toward me. Then he stops, strut, gobble, run, stop, strut, gobble. And I'm sitting here facing, this way straight ahead. To my right is my buddy that was swimming with him, my dad, and my buddy's dad. And so I'm trying to get this turkey in range for my buddy's dad to kill him.
Yeah.
I've got a gun just in case things get western, So I'm laying there, and here comes this bird, and like he's within 40 yards of me, and I'm like, all right, kill it. Y'all kill this turkey.
Yeah.
Kill this turkey. And literally, because you can hear him on the video when the video and the turkey come in. It's like, my dad's like, what are you waiting on? And then, like, if they were just watching it go down so much, he didn't think about shooting the turkey. He's just watching the show. And finally, this turkey is within 5 yards of me. The next thing he's fixing to do is jump on my head. Yeah, he is. And this is Osceola with some hooks on him. And, dude, I'm like, okay, I can't take this no more. I drop the fan. And, of course, he just sticks his head up like, what's that about?
Wait a minute.
I get my shotgun up. And I shoot, and at 5 yards, my pattern said, I just clean whiff him, like right by his head. Well, when I miss, this turkey jumps straight up in the air when I shoot. My buddy's dad shoots under the turkey, but right in front of me. I'm like, whoa, here, like this is getting wild.
It's getting western.
I mean, real quick, I'm like, we're in a gunfight. I don't know what to buy. And so the turkey, he hops up. I miss. He hops up. He shoots under him. The turkey hits the ground, and he's dead sprint running away. And I shoot him right in the back of the head about 30 yards, and it looks like a flat tire.
Just rolled him.
That was my first time fanning one in.
That's awesome.
And that was a bird. And come to find out, once I got to that turkey, I was like, man, his back feathers and right above his fan looked rough. And I asked the outfitter. He's like, man, we shot at a turkey right there the other day, and I bet that's where that guy hit him. So that turkey had already been shot a week before.
Dang.
And still, and that's what it took to get him to come in. So he didn't have any hens with him, nothing. He was right by himself, but he was decoy shy, but that fan still brought him in.
When you were calling at him, were you doing a bunch of cutting, yelping, or are you just mixing it up, throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him? What were you doing?
I always start out soft, and so I just do some yelps, see what he does. And then when, maybe he's okay, I'm not really sure that, then I'll cut at him a few times. And you can tell everything about a turkey by his head, by his color of his head and his snoot. If that snoot's long hanging down, you're in good shape. When that snoot is looks like a little bitty point sticking up right there in his head, he's either alert, he's not playing the game right now, And as you call, and then when that head goes from, a gray, red to blue, then white, it's on. Like he is fired up. And that's how I do my calling all the time. Like if I can visually see the turkey, I can check his temperature by how he's acting through the calls. And then and before I let him walk away, I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to cut at him. I'm going to do all kind of, cutting usually is what works the best. That just gets them more and more excited because that hen is out there, pop, 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 pop. That's what gets that gobbler's temperature up a lot of times.
Yeah.
But it's all subjective, and that's people asking me about calling all the time, and I said it totally depends on the mood of the bird.
Yeah,
100% of the time.
It's a temperature reading.
Exactly. It's a chess match.
Yeah, and that's I never thought about that. I mean, I've known that their heads change color when they get fired up, but I never actually thought to use that as a temperature gauge whenever I'm calling them. So that's a pretty good nugget there. Now, let's talk temperature reading whenever you don't have visuals on the bird. Let's say you got a bird 60, 70 yards away and you're in a thicket and you can't see him. I mean, obviously, if he's just going nuts and he's just responding, cutting you off, it's game on. But what are you doing? Let's say you've got that bird that's trying to come in silent on you, or he just shuts up and you don't really know where he is or what he's doing.
Well, I would answer this 2-part question. The first part of that is it depends on where I'm at and what turkey I'm hunting.
Okay.
Because if I'm here in Georgia, and that, I call and a bird gobbles. All right, I'm going to chill out for a few minutes, see if he gobbles on his own. If he doesn't, I'm going to give him, I'll give him a couple minutes or so.
Yeah.
Call again, and then I'll see where he's at. If he's closer that second time, I won't call to him much anymore. I'll let him. Here with our birds, you need to be very passive. Passive will kill more turkeys than aggressive here. And there's exceptions to everything. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's me at all the turkeys I killed, my average, how I handle things. Now, if I'm in Texas and we're hunting Rios, bro, I mean, I'm pouring the cold to them. They're going to gobble every breath. I've had turkey. I was hunting with a buddy of mine in South Texas a few years ago, and we always pick on him. His name's Tom Hurlbert. Good buddy, and he's got big ears.
Yeah,
he's like my height, but his ears are twice big. So we pick on him all the time. I'm like, hey man, you get better satellite reception. It's all good. And he's a good sport about it. But we were turkey hunting in South Texas, and I think he had missed one turkey twice that morning. He missed him. We called him back in, missed him again, and we left him strutting down the road with another gobbler. So we're like, all right, we'll just back off. We'll go down here and we rode down the road a little ways, and let's see if we can get one to gobble. So I called, and I mean, it's dead calm, which is rare for South Texas. And he's like, man, a bird just gobbled. I was like, huh? I didn't hear it. He's like, call again. I called again here. Bloop, bloop, bloop. I mean, like as far as you could hear.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I told you. I was like, well, I'm never going to doubt you again. I mean, you got better reception than I do. But that turkey, he had to be, a couple 100 yards away.
Oh, yeah.
Easy. And within 5 minutes, that turkey was at full strut at 50 yards. It's because if I'm out there hunting, and this was late April in South Texas, which is late in the season. The season ends on May the 1st, and those birds are lonely. There's so many freaking gobblers out there. The male birds are unreal at the numbers in comparison to like Georgia male versus female birds.
Yeah.
But they were so lonely. You hit a call, and if they gobbled at you, you sit down. I don't care how far away that bird is. You sit down and you get ready. If you're a spot you can see, and within 15 minutes, usually that bird's going to be standing there, and you can call to him the whole way, and he's going to gobble.
Oh yeah.
When they're that hot and they're that lonely, you can be aggressive, but if it depends on where you're hunting, like Missouri is another state that I've killed a couple really big birds in, and it was same way. You had to pour it to them. Like they would be walking along and gobble, and if you stopped, he's going to gobble again, and he's going to be leaving. Mm-hmm. But if you calling, you turn him and he's like, all right, well, I'm going to come over here. You're that aggressive with me. I'm going to come over here and talk to you. But it's all subjective to where you're at, how many male gobblers I think is in the area, male turkeys in the area. That has a lot to do with the competition level, and here patience wins most of your battles.
All right, Joe, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to interrupt this podcast just to thank a few partners of ours. We want to thank Work Sharp Tools, the knife sharpening company, for all their support of HuntStand and the HuntStand podcast. If you haven't yet, head on over to worksharptools.com. Check out everything they have to offer. I personally use the guided field sharpener, keep it in the pack, keep it in the hunting bag everywhere I go. It goes with me. That way, when I'm up in the mountains or wherever I am, I've got that with me, so that way when my knife eventually goes dull, I've got that there by my side. We also want to thank Alps Outdoors. Exceed your expectations. Alps has a lot of great products to use when it comes to big game, turkey, and predator. If you haven't yet, head on over to alpsoutdoors.com, and we are going to get right back to the HuntStand podcast with Michael Lee. Oh, big time. Yeah, that's... Sometimes Texas can be temperamental like that, but I mean, similar situation like you, man. It was mid-afternoon. We first went out. Hunting was kind of tough. We heard some gobbles here and there, and it was kind of one of those windy days, and we were just going nuts on the box call as loud as we could get, and we were just sitting there like, wait a minute. We just hear a gobble? And then, like you said, 15 minutes later, all of a sudden, here he comes just running in, just spitting and drumming, and shot him in the face and put him down. So, South Texas too, man. I love it. So, let's talk. I want to kind of dive into roosting birds. I think this is kind of a gray area for some people, especially those that are new to turkey hunting. When they hear roosting a bird or putting them to bed, I think somebody asked me this the other day. I was like, "Yeah, we got to go put some birds to bed." And they're like, "What? What are you talking about? Putting them to roost?" And like, tell everybody a little bit about how, if you're in an area and you might have some birds that you're able to put to bed. How are you doing that? What's your tactic to trying to roost birds?
For the most part, when I've done that, the majority of the time it's been like in Kansas. We did that all the time, in like Nebraska and places like that where you've got a lot of agriculture, and then you have your river bottoms and your drains that the birds will basically, they fly down, they hit a field, and they walk all through the fields and pastures and everything all day with hens and without hens doing their thing, and then they go back in the river bottoms unless it's warm. Then they go back in the shade, and then they go and fly up right at dark. Well, if there's a field that we know there's been some birds in, we'll go glass that field right at dark. We'll watch them and then literally try to see what tree they fly up in. And our goal is to get on that field edge, almost under that bird, and have the decoys out and, in front of us when it gets daylight. So when he starts gobbling, the first thing he sees is our decoys.
Yeah.
And usually they'll pitch down, and especially, like I said, there's Rios and even a lot of the Easterns, and field birds like that, if they see a strutter decoy or a fan out there, they come down and go right to it.
Right to it.
Okay, somebody's trying to take my spot, and I'm not going to let that happen. So they'll come jump on him and get shot.
Oh, heck yeah. So when you're going in there that early, that was kind of one of the next things I wanted to talk to you about. How early are you getting in the woods in the morning? Especially, obviously mornings like that, you got to get in super dark, but it sounds like you don't do that too much, but what would you say is kind of like the average time that you get in the woods? Like first daylight or 30, 45 minutes before? What are you doing?
Well, I'll put it like my dad says. You got two options.
Yep.
You can get up and go hunting, or you can go hunting when you get up. So you got either one.
That's true.
And I will say this: if you've got a bird roosted, or a good idea where they're going to be roosted at and where they're going as soon as they fly down, that's where you need to be. Be in there before daylight. A turkey can see better than a lot of people think in low light. If it's just kind of like gray out where you can't see color or whatever, but it's light enough to see without a flashlight, a turkey could see you.
Probably
I
too
think
late.
yeah, I've bumped some off the roost and they fly down, and they just tree hop and go further away,
Yeah.
and then they'll start gobbling. I'm like, well, I bumped him off, but and sometimes they come in, sometimes they don't. I mean, they don't unless you walk under one in the good daylight and bump him, and you just watch him fly. I mean, he can still be in the ball game, but that's the worst thing that can happen because when you bump him out of that tree and he flies off a long ways like that, that you just check on him tomorrow, because I just he's
He
usually
gone.
doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing something else somewhere else. But if it's a spot where you don't really have a bird roosted, you don't really know. I'm just standing in a spot that I don't know, on top of a ridge or rise or open area where I'm close enough to woods I can sit down, but where I can hear a long ways,
Yeah.
and like if you're sitting where you got a creek bottom or whatever like that, the birds like to roost on. You may not know what tree he's in, but you can hear him when he starts gobbling. Use that tree line or whatever cover you got to get as close as you can. Sit down and try to get him pitched down to you.
So one of the things I kind of have a question for you on is those birds that you've got roosted. You know exactly the tree he's in, field edge. You're getting in there when it's pitch black. Are you going in complete darkness, or are you worried about headlights making that bird go off?
In what we do, like having video equipment and stuff, and having to kind of get hidden pretty good and blinds, or not, pop up blinds, but like little, what I call just throw up blinds when you're turkey hunting, for cover. We'll use like our cell phone light sometimes, just keep it shining down at the ground and just enough to get by to get set up. I wouldn't go blazing in there with a bright white headlight or riding on your golf cart or whatever with lights on or anything like that. But I mean, I guess if you get in there early enough, it might work. You'd have to get there really early, I think. But,
okay.
But at the same time, if you're hunting a farm that people drive around all the time, got cattle and crops and all that, it may not bother those birds. But typical woods birds, I wouldn't go in there with anything like that. Maybe get away with a green light or a red light or something.
Might be able to get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how late are you hunting in the mornings? Is this kind of like you're just reading the temperature of the birds, or typical you coming back in at lunch? I know there's some guys that stay out all day. What are you doing?
Yes, it just depends on the situation. I mean, like we were talking about, if we're in South Texas and I know we've got a bunch of birds, and I mean, we'll stay out there until we kill. And I mean, that's a prime example is South Texas. We go out there. I've gone out there before. We kill one right off the roost, do our thing, pack it up, go to another spot, kill another bird. Gets kind of warm. Let's go chill out, eat lunch, hang out, cool off. Go back out 3 or 4 in the afternoon, kill another one. I mean, when you're on a spot that's that good with that many birds, you can kind of hunt them all day like that. But here, even in Georgia, I mean, I'll stay with them pretty hard until I think, well, okay, he's either not coming or he has hens with him. I know I'm not going to get him away from them. And those hens, the problem you have with the hens is, what I've kind of learned here anyway, is when they fly down, the hen's already got her day kind of planned out.
Yeah.
Especially, this time of the year where I think our birds here are already nesting pretty good. I mean, I've had birds on camera breeding weeks ago. So I think those hens are starting to sit on the nest more and more, and based on trail cam pictures of gobblers too being by themselves, middle of the day. But I think those hens will fly down. They hit a food source, food plot, whatever, peck around, feed along, go to thick stuff wherever they're going to nest. And that's when either that gobbler's either going to come right onto you or off the roost, or he's going to get with that hen and he's going to go follow her to wherever she goes. And then he realizes, hey, she's not going to do her thing. She's sitting on the nest. So now I got to go find somebody else to play with or whatever. And that's when I'll get birds on camera, 11, 12, 1, 2, 4 during out the day, right by themselves, coming in, walking through a food plot. I think they do it like white-tailed deer do a lot of times. They'll go to spots they know hens go to feed, and all right, well, I'm just going to hang out here in the shade or right in this area until I see a hen walk out or I hear one, and then I'm going to go check her temperature, and see if she wants to lay down for me.
Yeah.
So I think that happens a lot more.
I like it, man. So I know obviously it's a temperature reading thing, but how often would you say that when it comes to calling that, you sounds like you're pretty aggressive just depending on where you're at, what birds you're hunting, but do you ever kind of go at a bird and play hard to get with them sometimes when you're
Oh,
calling?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it may be one of those. It's like a afternoon hunt's prime. So you hunted that morning. Whatever happens, happens. You go back, grab your bite to eat. You go back out. 1 or 2 o'clock, whatever. And a lot of times here, especially if it's a sunny day and it's kind of warm,
Yeah.
I just go find a nice, comfortable spot. I got me a little turkey lounger kind of chair, that fold out. I'm sitting 6 inches off the ground, whatever, and I'll just kick back and relax and let the wind blow. And then I'll call a little bit, and everyone, then, if I've had them an hour later, bam, one gobbles and comes in and gets shot. So, I mean, I think that's what I would do a lot. And when you set up in those scenarios, I mean, just get out there and do a few yelps and see what happens, and cut a little bit, give it a little time, and sit there for 30 minutes or so. And if
Yeah.
you don't see anything, just get up and ease around, go couple hundred yards or whatever, find another spot that looks good where you can see a good ways, and give it a try again. I've killed a bunch of birds in the afternoon just literally going and sitting on food plots and getting set up, and they come in quiet. But when they come in, they see decoys, whatever, they come in, strut around, put on a show. They may never gobble, but that happens. Opening day last year here in Georgia, I did that. It was 6 o'clock in the evening, and a bird popped out in the food plot, came right to the decoy, strutted around. I shot him. He laid right there by the decoy, didn't even flop. And then 5 more gobblers came in and jumped on him and the decoys, and none of them ever gobbled. And I let them walk off. And, great opening day hunt, had a bird down, and never heard a gobble that afternoon. That morning they were going crazy, and I called one in. Dad shot him. But that's just how it is, man. It's so temperamental. It was cool that afternoon too. It was overcast, a little bit breezy, and pretty cool outside. So
those are the nice days.
Yeah, and until it gets, I'm one of them, man. When it gets 85 degrees and 90 degrees, I really don't care anything about it anymore.
Same.
Unless they're just running in wanting to die.
Oh yeah. So decoys, are you using them a bunch or situational? I know there's some guys that they just don't like to use them if they don't have to, and there's other guys that they die by them.
I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm going to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on where I'm set up and kind of how the hunt goes down. I mean, if we're just kind of doing a running and gunning kind of thing and we strike one, I'm just going to sit down and we'll see what happens, especially if we're in the woods.
Yeah.
I got time. I may throw a single hen out there or a single Jake decoy.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, if I'm setting up on a field, food plot, a big open area, or even in woods where you can see a long ways, I'm going to put my decoys out. In Georgia, historically, my strutter decoys or fan decoys don't work that great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it intimidates the wrong bird. But that Dave Smith decoy Jake, this like the half strut Jake.
Yep.
That dude's got more turkey shot than freaking ball factory, dude. It's crazy. I've got BBs literally rolling around inside of him where he's been shot.
Damn.
Lateral damage. We shot him standing on the back of him. I mean, all kind of stuff. I don't know what it is. I guess that decoy, just that posture. Mm-hmm. Pretty much, even a single gobbler that comes in, it challenges him enough to where he's going to go over there and check out and try to run that little guy off. And if you got 2 gobblers coming in and see him, it's pretty much game over. They're going to come with you.
Yeah. So would you say that? Sounds like you're just kind of like setting up a Jake decoy most of the time. I mean, or what's your go-to decoy setup most of the time?
Most of the time it's that Dave Smith Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a feeding hen that I'll put out there. I don't like an alert hen. I know a lot of people use an alert hen, but I don't like an alert hen because she's alert. Like when another turkey sees another turkey with his head up,
something's up.
What are we looking at? Like, what's going on? Because I've had the feeding hen, literally, hens walk over there and look at front of her face like, what are you eating? Like, you got right there for me. Like, I'll peck around in front of her. Like, I don't, and I do have a laying hen that sometimes I'll put kind of in the vicinity of that Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got the right gobbler with the right attitude and he sees a Jake trying to move up on a laying hen, then that makes him pretty mad. So
Gets them fired up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but that's kind of my three. I do have it's one of the little, I don't even know what it's called. I think it's made by Flexstone.
Okay.
It's kind of half body gobbler. It's just got like the front of the breast and a little bitty beard on it. And you
Yeah.
put my real fan in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll take that with me a lot of times if I'm just walking through the woods, like walking and checking a food plot or somewhere I'm going to go set up. I'll ease in, with that in front of me to kind of block me. Gobbler out there, then I can just ease down, and he doesn't know anything different.
No.
And I'll use it out there with my decoy setup sometimes because it's real small.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like a really big gobbler decoy can hurt you in some instances, but like I said, you get like states like Missouri, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska out west like that. They see that fan a lot of times and they just come in and destroy it.
I've had a full strutter kind of mess me up before.
Yeah. I think it depends on what side of the Mississippi River you're on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of been that way for me.
For sure. Man, I want to dive into your calls. Obviously you're probably mouth call guy. I mean, if you're a turkey hunter, you got to have it. Obviously, some of the newer, if you're new to turkey hunting, those can be tricky to master. But aside from a good mouth call, what's kind of your go-to call? Are you a box call? Are you a slate guy? Like, what's your go-to?
90% of the time I'm going to use a mouth call.
Yeah.
That's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I literally learned on a mouth call to turkey call.
Same
That's
here.
the thing. And I figured, I said, everybody said, well, that's the hardest thing to do. So let me get that out of the way first.
Yeah.
So, and it was an interesting ride to get it figured out. But
yeah,
I like that because your hands are free. It's versatile. You can purr, cluck, cut, yelp, whatever, gobble. I mean, you can do all kind of crap on it. But if I'm going to, my secondary call, I'll probably go to a slate or a glass over slate second. Because I can call softer on that pretty good, do some cuts and yelps and kind of the same thing you can with a mouth call. It's just got a different tone to it. You can get a different rasp, different pitch. And then my other is I'll have a box call. And I'm a fan of the old school call makers. Like I've collected a few over the years, and like a Lamar Williams box call. It's one of the, Mr. Lamar lives in Florida, and he's built some of the best sounding box calls in the world. And I've got one of those, and that's one of them that, hey, I've used these other two calls and nothing's really popping off. I'll get that box call out if it's a windy day, you need a longer range call, or if you just get somewhere like a Texas or whatever that's got a bunch of gobblers and you just want to get everything in the world fired up, you just hammer on that thing a little bit. And
they'll be gobbling their heads off.
A race then to see who can get over there first, but yeah, that's kind of my three go-tos. I've got wing bone calls and can use those. And they sound good, but they're hard to master. That really may be harder than a mouth call.
I would not disagree with you there at all. What's your favorite type? I mean, not from a brand perspective, but when it comes to mouth calls, do you like a raspier call? What's kind of been your go-to mouth call?
Yeah, I like a raspy call that it's not because you got double reed, triple reed, and quadruple reed on some of these things. And I like a double reed that can be raspy, or sometimes a triple reed, like a shipwreck cut or a lizard tongue or a bat wing, something like that. Those are usually pretty raspy. But I like a call that's thin, the latex and everything's thin enough where I can cut, yelp, and purr all on the same call. Because you get a mouth call that's too thin, or a thin double reed.
Yeah,
it doesn't. You can't cut on it as good. It's too high pitch. It doesn't roll over good. If you get one that's like a triple reed with a bat wing cut or whatever in it that's too thick, then you can't purr, and your yelps might sound decent and you can cut okay, but you just got to have that versatility, because I don't know how many times I've been there and had that gobbler at 60 yards, 70 yards. I need him just come in a little bit further, and I have to give him real soft yelp, real, little soft purrs to him or whatever on that mouth call, and then he just eases on in. And you don't want a mouth call that you have to use a ton of air to blow.
No.
That's if you're on there and you're feeling like you're about to pass out trying to get a yelp to break over, just don't use that call, man, because you need to be able to to be soft and delicate. Because if you ever get in the woods and you hear a real hen, like if you get her really excited, she's loud, but she's really crisp.
Oh yeah.
And it's awesome to hear. And I've heard some that sound like they smoke 12 packs of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And birds are losing his mind when she yelps, and it's just like I said, it goes back to that chess match, but finding that right tone for the birds in your area is important too, because I can take a call that I've killed 50 birds here in Georgia with. I go to Kansas and they just sit there and go, what is that crap? You got to match the tones of the hens, and they're all different, and it's all subjective to kind of what you're comfortable with and what you can work with.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, man, I love it. All these nuggets. I think this is a lot of great advice for our listeners. I mean, heck, I've learned a lot from you just sitting here for this 45, 50 minutes. I love it. I love picking other hunters' minds and finding out what y'all do differently.
And that's the beauty of hunting, man. There's no right way or wrong way. It's whatever works for you. And everything I'm telling you, I would say 90% of that is because I messed up.
Yeah.
And I had to learn it, My uncle actually took me turkey hunting for the first time. I was in my early 20s. I might have been 19 or 20. And I didn't know anything about anything. And we go and hunt, and I got to hear a bird gobble. I actually saw a gobbler with a hen in the distance going through a little creek bottom. And a hen came in by herself and almost walked across my boot. And I was like, man, we just made that hen walk by us. This is one of the coolest things ever.
Heck yeah.
And then I went and bought turkey calls, and I learned all that. But I didn't like, my dad actually started turkey hunting after I did. I caught in the first 2 birds my dad killed, like before anything. And so it was, my dad bass fished, and we deer hunted, and that was all.
Same.
And
yeah,
turkeys were, you shoot the dang turkeys to get them out of where your deer feeds at.
Yeah, they screw up your deer hunt.
Yeah, screw up deer, dang turkeys, and so that's what kind of everybody now is obviously a 180 from that. But I mean, I really learned so much by messing up. I mean, from a bird, like prime example, this past a week ago tomorrow, I shot a bird in Florida, and we had several birds. The air was so heavy, we had birds that we were visibly watching 70 yards in front of us, and we could barely hear them gobble. It was just that humid. It rained the whole night before. It was a beautiful morning, but it was just real heavy air, kind of foggy. And but we had a bird come in quiet. Well, he gobbled a few times, and he snuck in behind us, and we had 3 more gobblers in front of us that were too far. They were gobbling, and I was calling to them, and they were, just losing their mind, but they had a hen with them, and she was kind of courting them the other way. And we try and look like crap. This bird's standing 30 yards the exact wrong way, and he knew something wasn't right, and and I watched him out the corner of my eye, and he just walked off. Like, he didn't run, he didn't putt, he didn't anything alarming. He just kind of, okay, something's not right, and he walked off. And I'm sitting there, and my buddy Shad was videoing me, and I said, that bird's going to come back. He said, what do you mean? I said, I had this same thing happen to me 20 years ago, whatever it was now. I had a really big bird come in, and this wasn't a big bird. This was just a gobbler. But I said, I had a big bird come in. He walked out of the pines, and he saw something he didn't like, and he just turned around and went right back where he came from. And I sat there, I said, another 30, 45 minutes. And I looked over there, and he was standing in the same spot. He came right back out the same spot. And I'd called a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I didn't kill him, but because he just stayed too far. He kind of skirted me out in front and just never got, like, back then 40 yards was a stretch with whatever loads we could find. It was before the TSS days and all that stuff. So, he skirted us, and I didn't get a shot at him. My dad actually killed that bird like a week later at 9 o'clock in the morning. My dad goes over there, hits a turkey call one time. He gobbles and comes running in, kills him, 1.5-inch spurs and a 13-inch beard.
Dads have all the luck, man.
And that's my dad. That's big one. That's my dad right here behind me in this picture.
Yeah.
Watch this video. Like, that's our Miriams. We both completed 2 more Grand Slams last year in South Dakota. But this guy right here could catch a 5-pound bass in a Walmart parking lot, and he can kill a 150-inch deer at the Bass Pro parking lot. And then he can get turkey hunting and shoot one in the middle of the food section of Walmart. So it's just got that, But anyway, with all that being said, that's just one thing that I learned from screwing up. And I've walked under birds that were gobbling when I should have sat down, just pressed too close. That's when I learned that your foliage cover has a lot to do with how far a turkey sounds away.
Yeah.
Little things like that I didn't have anybody to teach me. So a lot of gobblers got away. Another thing, you talking about calling a while ago. I was hunting one time here in Georgia, and there was just a big fresh clear cut.
Yep.
I mean, me and a couple buddies of mine, we just walked out there. It was an afternoon hunt, and I called, didn't hear anything. We stand there for a few more minutes, and all right, well, we walk another couple hundred yards, sit there, and I call, and we're kind of tucked up a little bit. I turn and look, and right where I could just call from the first time, there were 3 gobblers standing there. Never made a sound. Just if they were standing like in our footprints.
They can pinpoint it, man. God.
That's when I learned, if you're going to call, give it 15, 20 minutes, sit down, call in case one comes in quiet. And I got buddies, my buddy in Kentucky I was talking about, he will not do that. It is you keep walking that property until you make one gobble. And if they don't one gobble at you, you get in the truck and go to another spot. And that's how he hunts. He'll walk you to death. But you're going to find a turkey sooner or later. So,
man, you just have to. I mean, I can remember guiding out in South Texas probably about 5-6 years ago, and we had some birds gobble early, and they just straight shut up. But I knew they were down in this drainage because it was hot. They were staying cool, and we just kind of stayed off catty corner, and we're calling, and you might hear one gobble every 30 minutes. I'm like, they're down there. We got to figure something out. And so I don't know what I did. I think I just cut at them, and then they just shut up. I'm like, well, I screwed that up. They're gone. And I told the girls with the client, I said, all right, well, let's go. And I slowly got up and I looked, and 12 yards away coming in, there were 3 of them. Redheads, I could just see over the grass. And I told her, I said, get back down. She goes, what? I said, there's 3 toms coming. I mean, they just peeked their head out. She blasted one at like 7 yards right in front of us. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about South Texas like that. I was talking about that hunt with my buddy Tom earlier, and it was that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was that trip or we went down there twice together like that. And we killed some birds, and my wife went, and we were hunting with Bonnie and Mike McFerrin, good friends of ours that have Legends of the Fall TV show down on their ranch. And so Bonnie likes to go when my wife goes. Beth and Bonnie, they call themselves the killer bees, and they like to hunt together because Mike down there, Mike don't care about turkey hunting. That's why we get to go.
Yep.
Whatever, come shoot some turkeys. So we're down there, and I think my buddy Tom and I, we both killed a bird, and we were trying to get Beth and Bonnie on them. And same deal. I mean, it was kind of windy. And another thing about South Texas, there's so many coyotes and things like that that the birds don't when they're tucked in the mesquite. Now, when they're out on Sendero or whatever, they'll fire off or fields or whatever like that. But in the woods, it's subjective, right?
Yep.
So we're down there. Same kind of deal, man. We're set up, and we'll just sit here, we'll watch down this Sendero, and we'll call for 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll go somewhere else and do it again. We'll fire them one sooner or later. And we're sitting there like that, and I'm videoing them. They're sitting like 2 yards in front of me on this mesquite tree. And I don't know if I look down at my phone or whatever I'm doing, and I hear them, they're like, what do we do? And I was like, I looked up, there's 7 gobblers standing in there.
Yeah.
They're inside 5 yards. And I don't know where they got away. I mean, they were in our lap so fast. They were just like, oh, okay, never mind. And they go right back.
See ya.
And I was like, where did they come from? They're like, we just were watching down the Sendero, and they all walked out in one group right in front of us like that. And they never made a sound. They never gobbled. Mm-hmm. But I was like, there are 7 longbeards standing right here. And they all got away somehow. But it was, that's turkey hunt, man.
It is.
Right.
I mean, it's hunting in general. It's trial and error. I mean, I think that's how you got to learn. I think there's might piss a couple people off whenever I say this, but I think some people, they try to make the hunt too perfect, and they try to make the perfect move, and then they just get angry when it doesn't happen. It's like, hey, that's hunting. That's why they call it hunting and not killing. I mean, you got to learn from those mistakes like you were talking about. I mean, there's 100 things I wish I would have done different in deer woods, up in the mountains chasing elk. You get home and you think about it, and you're like, damn, I really wish I would have done this. I would have done that. I would have killed him if I would have done that. But hey, you learned it, and next time when that situation happens, you know how to handle it better.
I relate it to like years playing baseball or whatever. I mean, everything's reactive.
Yes.
And then day. I mean, hunting's reactive, sports are reactive, and you're sitting there and man, I should have known that curveball was coming.
Yep.
You know that, and you didn't. But next
Mm-hmm.
time you come there, you look at that curveball. Of course, then they throw a slider or change up, mess you up anyway. But
Yeah.
Well, that's just how it is. I mean, you adapt your skills to the best you can. You try to learn from your database of mistakes or whatever. And I think a lot of times there's two things about turkey hunting, and I'm not trying to get too long on everything, but with a lot of people have a misconception about turkey hunting because depending on where they live,
Mm-hmm.
because there's some states that there's just plethoras of turkeys. They're all in people's yards, and they literally think there's nothing to killing these turkeys. Well, if I was sitting on your back deck shooting them out under your bird feeder, there's probably not a lot to it. But if I go in the woods in there and I try to call a turkey in, that's a different story. And then there's, like you said, there's people that think unless that gobbler comes in full strut, gobbles, comes to the decoys, and then you shoot him, you didn't do anything. Well, that's a crock of crap too, man. Because I have hunted back when I first started turkey hunting in Georgia, which I was learning a lot. I was doing good to kill one turkey a year. We didn't have a ton of turkeys, number one.
Yeah.
But on our family farm where I hunted, we may have 2 or 3 gobblers to hunt the whole season. And I mean, we knew kind of where they roosted and where they went, but they were slick, man. They had plenty of hens, and there's a couple of birds I can remember offhand. Like I literally could only see the turkey's head, and I said, "Well, there you go, he's fixing to die."
Boom.
And I mean, from a video standpoint, that's not the best thing in the world. I used to be the world's worst about not milking footage. Like, you got one committed to the decoy, and he's in the death circle, as I call it, and he's just going to be there for a while. You can kind of let it go. I'm just ready to shoot. It's just shooting.
I just want to kill that bird. Just want to kill.
Yeah. I just want to go out there and see how long his spurs are. That's really like Easter egg hunt. See what I got under the prize egg there.
I'm thinking about a turkey fry.
Exactly. Put that thing on a pellet grill at 300 degrees for about 3 hours, man. You can call me. I'll tell you right now.
Man, I love it. Well, man, I really appreciate you hopping on the podcast and letting me pick your brain and just talk turkeys and hopefully get some golden nuggets for our listeners out there today.
No, I appreciate it, man. Enjoyed it. And I look at it this way. I've been around here long enough, made enough mistakes. Hopefully I can teach somebody something somewhere along the way.
Oh, yeah, man. There you have it, everybody. Another end to another great episode of the HuntStand podcast. We just want to thank Michael for coming on and bringing us lots of killer turkey hunting tactics. And if you haven't yet, you're going to want that lucky pair of drawers out of the dresser in the woods with you the next time, because you never know. Things might be coming down to the wire. You got to go to work the next day, and you're going to need to break out those lucky drawers just like Mike does. So we just want to thank him for hopping on the podcast with us. And if you haven't yet, head on over to HuntStand.com or on your phone, whichever app store you use, Google Play or the iPhone App Store. Make sure you have HuntStand downloaded. And if you've only got the free version, get you the pro version, because you have no idea what you're missing out on, y'all. There are a lot of features and layers there that you're missing out on that could potentially be the difference between you killing and not killing. So make sure you go on over to HuntStand.com, download the app if you haven't yet, or get you the pro version. But we just want to thank all of y'all for tuning in to the HuntStand podcast, and we will see you on the next one.